Good morning, everybody. Robert Phoenix here, broadcasting to you live from Fredericksburg, Texas. How is everyone this morning? It's a little gray, it's a little wet, it's a little wintry, and today we're going to talk about a number of newsworthy items that are floating around out there. Of course, we're going to check in with what's happening with the Caravan of Nightmares. Good morning, Judy. How are you? And bunch of other stuff that seems to be percolating and going on, and it's always an interesting day. There's always some shit going on, isn't there? But you know what? Again, it's always a very interesting time to be on the planet and witness what we're all going through together, right? And we're all going through together in our own way, even though there are probably non-performing characters lurking in the background, just constructs of the matrix waiting to be activated. So how is everyone this morning? There's a Lotto winner in South Carolina. If you weren't paying attention, one person won $1 billion. That's right, $1 billion. Now, there are 5 states that there are 5. I think there are 5 states here. Let me get the stats again. Just to be precise in my pronouncements. Let me get in here. Get on in here. Okay, so here we go. Okay, give me one sec. All right. Okay, so the Lotto was won by one person in South Carolina. And the states that allow you to remain anonymous are the following: Delaware, Kansas, Ohio, Arkansas, and Wisconsin. So if you ever win the lottery in those states, you are not required to divulge your identity. However, we will find out who the person in South Carolina is. And just in case you did play the lottery, the winning numbers happen to be 5, 28, 62, 65, 70. The mega ball was 5, and the mega plier 3 times. I wonder if there's code in there somewhere that the numbers 5, 28, 62, 65, and 70 all represent some kind of code. Cryptographers around the world are now breaking down the winning lottery numbers. So I just thought I would share that with you, that they finally found a home for the $1 billion. I've often felt that the lottery is rigged. It's a total rig. It's a total scam job. I feel like there are times where they'll have somebody who will actually be given winning numbers, and they'll accept the check on the surface, like the really big amounts, right? The huge amounts, the massive amounts. They'll accept a check on the surface. They'll get a nice little some payout, like maybe $10 million. $10 million in the face of winning, say, $400 million. Wouldn't you take it if you were just some random person? Okay, here we go. This is the role you're going to play. You're going to be the winner. You're going to play the winner, and you are going to get $10 million. And by the way, your $10 million will not be taxed. It'll be straight $10 million. You'll sign these agreements. You'll sign this waiver. And if you ever speak of this, we'll cut you off. The $10 million is probably a drip line, right? It's probably not all at once. Probably get like $1.5 million a year or something like that, or $500,000 a year, whatever that is. So if they say something, then they get cut off. I mean, I've just thought about this. It's way too much money. I mean, if I were running a black budget program, I would make the lottery a total limited hang. You know what I'm saying? That's what I would do. Anyway, there is a winner, and it wasn't you, and that's okay, because in my book, you're still a winner. Let's check out the chat. Let's see who's in on the chat. There's Beth. Hello, Beth. There's Joe. Hey, Joe. What's going on? How are you? Nice to see you in the chat room today. I had a funny incident yesterday. Morning, White Wolf 28. By the way, whoever thought of black toothpaste? What was the idea behind black toothpaste? Do you know what I'm talking about? It's like this toothpaste that has charcoal in it, and it's supposed to be really good for your teeth and make your teeth whiter. Good morning, CIDGE. Good morning. Whoever thought of black toothpaste? Tell me that was a good idea. You ever use black toothpaste, you brush your teeth, what happens? First of all, your teeth are black. I mean, if they're going to be whiter, it might be an hour or two later, but then your sink is black. At least with white toothpaste, your sink can stay, at least it looks relatively white. And there's like a consistency with the black toothpaste, which makes it almost like tar. If you don't rinse it right away, you're taking like spackle knife to it. Black toothpaste is it's not. I don't think it's a great idea. I mean, I've tried it. I'm sorry. I know. It may sound racist, but I'm leaving black toothpaste to go back to white toothpaste because white toothpaste is just easier to deal with. I know. I tried practicing diversity with my toothpaste, and it wasn't working for me. It just wasn't working. Here's what I think. I think here's the mastermind plan. Somebody had a huge amount of black sink basins that they wanted to get rid of. And they thought, hey, here's what we'll do. We'll work with black toothpaste. We'll create a black toothpaste market so we can sell all these black sinks that are just sitting around and nobody's buying. I think that's the big black toothpaste conspiracy. Anyway, I'm going to use this tube, and it's back to a good old fluoride-free, whatever is the cheapest. I used to use baking soda and hydrogen peroxide. That was my go-to for years. I might even go back to that. Judy says, my folks used soot from the fire a long time ago, and I'm thinking Daddy had us try it once. Oh, yeah, soot toothpaste. Soot powder. Good old folk remedy, soot powder. A lot of good old folk remedies out there. Get yourself a little soot powder. Yeah, I think what they did is they took a page out of your folks' folk remedy book and thought to themselves, hey, let's create black toothpaste. Salt and soda was my go-to. Salt and soda. Here you go. There's some more homemade toothpaste remedies for you to clean your teeth out there in the world. It's funny. I'll give you another. I'm just kind of getting going here. Morning, Lori. I was okay. Please forgive me. I live in a town where there's not a lot of shopping options. Okay, so I have to go to Walmart. I've had to like realign and reassess my relationship with Walmart in a lot of ways. It's just the way it is. So I went there yesterday, and I had to get a few things because there's really no other options here. So I was in Walmart, and I had this moment. It was like a really weird moment. There was this woman who was in one of those electric carts, the ones that they have at the stores that you can jump in and cruise around the store with. So okay. So I'm going to find a checkout stand to check out in, and she's in her electric cart, and she's doing the same thing I am. She's cruising to see where she can pull that cart in, and And then I'm looking to see where I can, take my thing, which was, I don't think I had a cart. I was just carrying some stuff. So there I was, and I'm like in a race with this woman in her electric cart. Okay, so and I'm, it was like a Seinfeld episode. I'm trying to beat this woman in her electric cart to get to the shortest line, and I dusted her. I'm 58 years old. I beat electric cart lady to the checkout stand. You'd be proud of me. I had very few items, and I didn't know she was going to come to my checkout stand. It just happened that way. But it was quite unusual finding myself in a checkout sprint. It wasn't even a sprint. It was a very brisk, high-paced walk to pull ahead of electric cart lady. All right. Business at hand. We've got a few people. I think we have a quorum. Let the show begin. There's a lot of weird shit happening up the road, down the road. I guess it's down the road in Austin, 70 miles away from me. It is the most bizarre thing. What's going on, Indigo, Raina? It's the most bizarre thing. We have had so much water, like biblical proportions of water. And I've been here before. I've been here for 6 years, and the flood of 2013 was absolutely mind-blowing. The flood of 2013, 2 years later, 2015, Wimberley gets blown out. Now it's up the road in Llano and Kingsland, and people are, having their stuff basically taken away by the force of this natural act, ? And downstream for that, or downriver from all these rivers, is the city of Austin. And they have had a huge amount of water, and with the water comes silt. Okay. Yeah, I know. You guys, this is what happens. Okay, here's what happens. They divert, and I've talked about this before. They divert the weather and the water from California. Like the rain you're getting, guess what? We're getting it. We are getting California's rain. That's right. I've seen this. I've seen the weather patterns. It goes and goes just like this. So yeah, you're getting droughted out. That's what's happening. Just in time for next year's season of fire, so that more people can be moved off of their land and into the green cities. The cattle pen known as Agenda 21, Agenda 2030. This is what's happening. Wow, Bethberry. Wow. Hi, Bethberry. Yeah. So we're getting a ton of water here. And here's what's really weird about the water is the cognitive dissonance around the whole thing. I was watching the local news last night. It's very strange. They're telling people to boil their water because of the silt. Okay. I get it. Boil that water. And then they're saying that they have a water shortage. I'm like, what? I mean, are you kidding me? A water shortage? There's a water shortage, and they're basically saying that you can't wash your car. You can't water. I mean, who would want to water their lawn anyway? Because the soaking of these lawns are probably completely drenched. But it is like the biggest mind fuck I've seen. The people, and so the businesses had to shut down because of the water situation. They got the HEBs had water just flow. I mean, I'm sitting here in Fredericksburg. Everything's fine. Got plenty of water here, plenty of water at the store. There's no water shortage here. But now they've got a water shortage during a mega monsoony seasonal flood. Mind blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing. So what is going on here? So then they have these tests that are coming back from the water, from the labs, from the water municipality, probably the school, UT, and they've not found any pathogens in the water. They haven't found anything that even remotely resembles an amoeba or anything like that. Nothing. So yet you still have to boil your water. There's a water shortage. Don't use water. I mean, it's one of the most mind-blowing things. Now, I'm sure there's a reason for it, right? I'm sure there's a reason for it. I'm sure there's a very specific and scientific reason. Well, because water level's so high, we had to distribute water. No, 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 no. It's ridiculous. It's really absurd. It's absurd. So, I wonder what's really going on. What's really happening? Why are we being hit with this massive amount of water at this time? As we come into the midterm elections, whereas Texas is going to be theoretically a very pivotal state with what's going on. People are early voting like freaking crazy out here. So, I think people are so passionate now about voting that they will get in a raft, and they will blow up raft. They'll get on blow up pool toys. They'll get on blow up giant swans just to get to the voting booths. That's the energy here right now. When I was downtown on Monday here in Fredericksburg, there was a 2-hour wait to vote. You think people are eager to get their votes in? You bet your ass they are. So, if this is some kind of ploy to keep people away from the voting booths, that ain't happening. That is just not happening. So it's a very strange deal. I've never seen anything like it before. Chris and Steve, more sky weirdness. Yesterday in Asheville, enormous amount of spraying, a huge circle around the sun, taking up about 3/4 of the sky with double sun dogs. We wondered what is going on too. I was talking with Lexi from Arizona, Alexandra May Hunter, who is really a terrific person and a fantastic chemtrail geoengineering activist. And she says, she's in Arizona, she says they've just been spraying overtime in Arizona right now. I can't see any spraying here because we've had massive cloud cover. We haven't seen the sun here in about a week. Well, we had a little bit of sun, I think, 2 days ago on Monday. But by and large, it has been just nothing but gray skies. And apparently we got another front coming in, and it's a monsoon from Mexico, I believe. What does Judy say? For sure, on my way to Dallas yesterday, chemtrails were ugly. Yeah, they are laying it thick in the sky. Controlling the weather with Nextrat elephant technology, we're learning. Absolutely, we are learning. We've been figuring this out for years now, right? Some of us have been a little bit ahead of the curve, but people's eyes are popping open. We're seeing what's going on, and that's exactly what's taking place. The weather is being controlled, but for what reason? To what extent? Is it to mess with us, our circadian rhythms, dump more nanobots inside of us, make us more confused, new pathogens? I mean, what's going on? What is the data behind this actual dump that we're experiencing now? And how will it impact what's going to go on at the border? Because we're going to talk about some of the border stuff today. Why will Philly chemtrails really hit? Here we go. I love this, man. We got people chiming in the chat room today, giving us some insight as to what's going on above their heads. We love that. Thank you. Misty Mara, it was beautiful in Fort Worth yesterday. They started spraying, and now it's raining again. Bingo. So, Mr. Trump, open up your eyes, talk to one of your kids. Think Don Jr., maybe Eric. Who's the one that's the most conspiratorial? I think it's Don Jr. Have a sit down with Don Jr. about the chemtrails. I think it's out of Trump's hands, by the way. Mike Morales channel and Jim Lee. There we go. There's some resources for you with that stuff. Yeah, man, we're in it now. See, here's what happens. And I've been following this for years. When I first started really paying attention to chemtrails, it's 1997. And they were probably spraying them. I mean, they've been spraying them for a long time, but 97, they really ramped up the program. They had some sprays back in 96, but 97 was like, man, it was just crazy and thick, and it was the worst. So over time, what I've seen is that they basically split the spraying between north and south of the equator. Jim Lee has a petition to stop geoengineering. Yeah, Indigo, if you want to put that link in your chat box to his website, so people could go over there and maybe sign that petition. I think petitions are useful to some degree. You never know. We're working on one here to get the fluoride out of the water. So go sign a petition, get involved, right? Let's see what we can do with this. But I've been watching the patterns of chemtrails for years now. Here's what happens. Right around late September, early October, the spraying begins in the northern hemisphere, and it abates in the southern hemisphere. And then as springtime ends, right around the middle part of spring, all the way through the summer, we get less chemtrails here, and they get more chemtrails in South America. So what they're doing is they're piggybacking on the seasonal aspects. Good morning, Ani. They're piggybacking on the seasonal aspects so that in the fall and winter, where there's generally a lot of cloud cover, they can lay the chemtrails down at a much thicker rate. That's number one. Number two, there's less sunlight. When you have less UV, guess what? You're less healthy. That's the way it is. That's how it works. When you have less UV, you've got less vitamin D. You're just more susceptible to illness, and by and large, you get cold weather that breaks down the immune system as well. So they're getting the most bang for their buck by spraying during the fall and winter months intensely in both areas. Now that doesn't mean that they stop completely spraying. No, that's not true, because we'll see the spring sky and the summer sky with the occasional crisscross, but it happens with less frequency than it does during the fall and the winter. So I've seen this time and time again. This is what I've come to understand in terms of the chemtrail spraying and chemtrail cycling. Anyway, apparently Jim Lee. That's the guy who has the petition. Lori asks, what about the solar minimum we are going into? Health issues. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yep. So the solar minimum is a period of time. It's cyclical. They've been able to actually track it. Kathleen says, according to the sundog site in Western North Carolina, that was not a sundog. It was an oil slick. Whoa. Okay, maybe Kathleen can build on that a little bit. Annie says, here in Miami, to slow down. In summer, we were bombarded. Okay, well, I guess you might be on the Southern Hemisphere program. Much about this water issue. Stop the crime. Deborah Tavares does good stuff. But the rain is being diverted from California. I've seen this seasonally again and again and again, and we're getting California's rain and their water, plus whatever water is coming up through Mexico and the fronts that drop down from the northern part of the country. So somebody's doing a mashup here, right? A geoengineering mashup. Jet fuel is part of the spraying. Absolutely. Long time ago, I was at and I've told this story before, I was at a music event, a music festival. And this is when Dennis Kucinich was running for president. And he was on stage at this event. He spoke to people, and I was backstage. So he popped off the stage and he came down into the backstage areas. I said, hey, Dennis, I said, I have a question. I have a question for you. I said, if you get elected president, what are you going to do about this geoengineering spraying? What are you going to do about the chemtrails? And he said to me, he said, well, first of all, they're real. He said that to me. Dennis Kucinich says, they're real. I know a lot of people that are getting sick from them. So here's a politician. Yes, I know it's Dennis Kucinich, but he's a good man. So he admits to me that the spraying is real. And he had what was at that time, was it the Clean Air Act, or it was the Air Safety Act? Basically, he was trying to bring this thing before Congress, which, to Kathleen's point, airline companies would have to essentially disclose what is in their fuel. Air Quality and Safety Act. I think that was the name of it. So Kucinich was working on this, and it never got enough traction. It never passed. That was his way of beginning to kind of crack this thing open. Like, let's look at what's in the fuel. Let's start there. Didn't happen. And of course, Dennis is not even in politics at a national level. But it was an interesting conversation and confirmation, at least from an elected official, that these things. I mean, how many elected officials are going to admit that? You know, Dennis. I thought Dennis was great. He was one of the last true Democrats. If you really think about it, you know, when you think about, you know, what a Democrat used to be, it was Dennis Kucinich. Apparently, Tulsi Gabbard is thinking about running for president in 2020. How do you feel about that? She looks good on paper, but she's also connected to the Council on Foreign Relations and has some interesting connections with a kind of a strange cult, too, by the way. So I don't think anybody's perfect these days. There's just, you'd have to create kind of a test tube person. Chauncey Gardner is probably the closest we could ever get to a perfect candidate. So the water thing is interesting in Austin. Now, what's going on in the border? Are they using the water somehow to create confusion, chaos? Is this kind of a shield? If the DOD is actually doing the spraying, which I think they are, well, aren't they theoretically in league with Trump if Trump was elected by military intelligence or put together or put on the plate, put on the table by military intelligence? I mean, trying to figure out these alliances here. But the caravan thing is heating up. Okay, so I'm going to jump into. I actually like Judicial Watch. I haven't found anything terrible about Judicial Watch. We always have to sort through things like, who are these people? I think they're pretty good. They've done some interesting stuff. They do a lot of FOIA material. I think Tom Fillion's an interesting guy. So this is the Corruption Chronicles. Now, whether or not you believe this or not, I'm just going to read this to you. It says, young angry men and gangbangers march towards U.S. yelling, "Vamos para a la Trump." Okay, so besides gang members and mobs of young angry men, the Central American caravan making its way to the United States also consists of Africans, Bangladeshis, Sri Lankans, and Indians. Judicial Watch is covering the crisis from the Guatemalan and Honduran border this week and observed that the popular mainstream media narrative of desperate migrants, many of them men, women, and children, seeking a better life, is hardly accurate. Guatemalan intelligence officials confirmed that the caravan originated in the northern Honduran city of San Pedro Sula, includes a multitude of special interest aliens, also known as CIA, from the countries listed above, as well as other criminal elements and gang members. There are also large groups of men, some with criminal histories, aggressively demanding that the U.S. take them in. During a visit to the Guatemalan town Chicamila, about 35 miles from the Honduran border, Judicial Watch encountered a rowdy group of 800 men, ages 17 to about 40, marching north on a narrow two-lane highway. Among them was a 40-year-old Honduran man who previously lived in the United States for decades and got deported. His English was quite good, and he said his kids and girlfriend live in the U.S. Another man in his 30s contradicted media reports that caravan participants are fleeing violence in fear for their life. "We're not scared," he said, waving his index finger as others around him nodded in agreement. "We're going to the United States to get jobs." Others chanted, "Vamos para a la Trump." "We're coming, Trump," as they clenched their fists in the air. "We need money and food," said a 29-year-old man who made the trek with his 21-year-old brother. Well, you know what? They probably do need money and food. And this is a bigger crisis. It's a much bigger crisis. It's kind of a manufactured one, but it's also much bigger. Let's read a little more. All the migrants interviewed by Judicial Watch repeated the same rehearsed line when asked who organized the caravan, insisting it was a spontaneous event, even though there were clearly organizers shouting instructions in Spanish and putting select persons in front of cameras for interviews. A few claimed they heard about it on local news in Honduras. All of them said the caravan was It's not about politics, but rather poverty. I just want to get back to the U.S., said a 30-year-old man who admitted he has been deported from the U.S. twice. We're all just looking for work. The group radiated a sense of empowerment. One marcher who appeared to be in his late teens yelled, "You go live in Honduras and see what it's like." He's got a point. It's probably a shithole. Sorry for any Hondurans out there. Honduran President Juan Orlando Hernandez, a conservative, said in a local newspaper report that leftist interests seeking to destabilize the country are manipulating migrants. Possible. Women and children are being used without regard to the risks to their lives, Hernandez said. The irregular mobilization was organized for political reasons to negatively affect the governance and image of Honduras and to destabilize the peace of neighboring countries, the president said, adding that many have returned to the country after realizing they've been fooled. Guatemala is overwhelmed with the sudden onslaught. Immigration officials confirmed 1,700 migrants have been returned to Honduras on buses. The first wave of migrants totaled about 4,000, according to Guatemalan government sources, followed by a second, less organized group of about 2,000. The impoverished Central American nation needs help, including logistical communications and civil affairs support to stop the human caravans. There are only so many resources we can dedicate to this, said Guatemalan Secretary of Strategic Intelligence Mario Duarte. Guatemalans are getting robbed and crimes being committed by the people in the caravans. So now we have brown on brown crime, apparently. But this is also a caravan that is completely filled with people, not filled, but stocked with people from other countries. Does that surprise you? No. Now here's where it's all going. This wave is gonna crash. It's gonna crash. It's gonna hit the border probably in the next 72 hours by the weekend. Stuff usually happens on Friday, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see sort of this, the first wave, the tip of the spear hit the border on Friday. Now, here's where it gets real tricky. So let's say, for instance, that this is actually a destabilizing event that has been manufactured, which I do believe it has been. And maybe, just maybe, the manufacturing event might not be the same people that you think are manufacturing it. I'll get into that in a little bit. But let's say it does happen. The first wave hits Friday. And let's say Trump really decides that he's going to double down and he sends a National Guard to the border. Or he'd probably have to. Maybe, I don't think the Army would probably work here, but he could send the National Guard to guard the border. That is within the constitutional right of this country, right? You can guard the border. You can secure the border. Well, let's say he does that. And we have women and children that are a part of the border. They're a part of this caravan. A caravan doesn't sound quite romantic, right? When I think of caravan, I think of Maria Muldaur and that song "Midnight at the Oasis," which is one of my favorite songs. I love that song. The hook in that song is great. She has such a great voice in that tune. Anyway, the caravan. It's like they're coming. They're on camels. They're slowly just on camels on their way to the border. They've got silk tents. It's a nice caravan. As they go along the way, they distribute rose petals and they stop for hookah sessions. It's a beautiful caravan. Beautiful caravan. Now, so they're going to have women and children as a part of this thing. And when they hit the border, and if there's a confrontation, we're talking like an Elian Gonzalez kind of moment. Trump, troops, guns, women, children, and of course, really they'll be the wave. They'll be the human shield. Women and children first. Women and children first. And so I think those are the first images we're going to see. They'll organize how this will appear for cameras and how it'll play for cameras. So any kind of intervention is going to have to be pretty strategic. You're going to have to be very strategic about the intervention. And I'm sure, since these people are so smart, that they have a plan to deal with this in a way that is both humane and clearly defined. Right. Okay, we'll see about that. Anyway, this is coming to a theater near you. This is the next big thing. It is coming in advance of the midterms. and this is the final double down. Okay, so there have been three essentially. There are about four social canards that are in play right now. The social canard is the nationalist. That's another big one now. I'd say if we had a top five, we had a top hot five of social canards. I should do a ranking list. This week at number one, peaking in at number one, nationalism. Nationalism equals racism equals exceptionalism. That's number one on your social canard list. Number two, the caravan, illegal aliens from other countries, not just Honduras or Guatemala or Mexico, but from all over the world. These people are going to show up and they're going to crank your sympathy lever. If you're so inclined to have your sympathy cranked in that way, they will crank your sympathy lever so intensely you will writhe in ecstatic pain. And just it's like, if you're on the left, okay, if you're on the left and you're seeing all this, how could you not be going like this? Oh, can't wait till they get there. Oh my God, it's gonna be so great because they're gonna use all this force and they're gonna look like such assholes. We got this. We're gonna turn the election. Now we got Trump and he's a nationalist. Well, that's code for racist and white supremacist. Oh, we're bringing these people, these poor displaced people. Look, the people down there, let's be clear about it. They have shit lives, okay? We cannot, I'm not going to sit here and say, wow, their life in Honduras is so much better there than, no, it's not. It's not. They probably have really crappy lives. Whose fault is that? It's not their fault. On some level, maybe, they incarnated into that life. What can I say? That's a whole other discussion. And I'm not going to go there. But I'm sure people like, what's his name? The guy from Apple, Mr. Glasses, and Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos. I'm sure that they would have a nice plan for Guatemala and or Honduras to have like a nice little Amazon warehouse or, do something kind of Apple. I mean, come on, man. These globalists, if they wanted to, they could set up shops in these countries. They could help these people out. They don't want to, though. They're much too interested in turning the United States into their third world workforce. Okay. Anyway, so this is number two on the social canard hit list or hit parade. So we're going to have to deal with and all the imagery and all the optics and sort through all of it, right? I'd say number three after that, I'd say that hashtag Me Too has dropped a few spots in the social canard power rankings. Hashtag Me Too is probably number three, although we could get a surprise hashtag Me Too meme blow up between now and November 6th. Quite possible, in which case their rankings would rise. I'm sorry, Black Lives Matter, inner city crime, canard. I mean, that's probably dropped. I think you're at number 4, maybe number 5. Maybe number 5 at this point. I think you might have been displaced by people who are taking exception to being compared to NPC, non-participating characters or non-playing characters, right? So I think the NPCs might have like gone up one slot in our power rankings, in our social canard power rankings. So there we go. And these are the triggers and the levers that are supposed to turn the tide in the election, turn the wheel. Now, what if, and I threw this out here yesterday, what if really what was going on was to somehow have these events happen to make Trump look better? I talked about this the other day. I mentioned it briefly yesterday. And it's starting to kind of seep up through sort of the alternative news current. I think it's quite possible And um, when I think about it, and sort of prior examples, I'll never forget when Trump was running for president and he was talking about the migration crisis and the migration issue to really get it on the radar and get people thinking about it, because nobody was really talking about it, and how dangerous it is and what a threat it brings to civilized and safe and secure lives here in this country. Like, what was it, a day or two right after that, you had the Kate Steinle thing in San Francisco, which I, to this day, and you may disagree with me, to this day, I think the Kate Steinle thing was a psyop. I really do. I don't think it was Trump being prescient, because the way that had Trump was on a roll with this stuff, right? Like, he would talk about uh, extreme Islam. He would talk about this. Oh, we got to throw the Khashoggi canard in there too. I would rank Khashoggi canard probably number 4, maybe number 3. So I would go nationalist equals white supremacist, racist, social canard, number 1. Number 2, the caravan. That's number 2. Number 3, I would go with the Khashoggi canard. Number 4, I would go with hashtag Me Too. And I would say probably getting bumped out of the top 5 by the NPC, unfortunately, would be Black Lives Matter. I think those are your top 5 social canards. And that list is subject to change. I may actually revise that list tomorrow. We'll see where it goes. Anyway, so Trump was on a roll during the run up to the election, because he would say something. He would talk about, this place is such a crappy city. I think, what was he talking about? Was he talking about Vienna? I think he was talking about Vienna, right? And next thing you know, some weird shit happens in Vienna. Like, do you think that stuff happens just because Donald Trump is prophetic? I would tend to think not. He was really railing on and on and on about the Muslim crisis, extremists, extreme Islam. And we had all these events that sort of just like snap, crackled, and popped, around the extreme stuff. It's like, oh yeah, he's right. So is this part of this strategy? Is this part of, what is put into place so that ultimately Trump can look good? I don't know. I'm throwing it out because this is what we do here, right? I'm not so set in my ways to think that these things don't happen. I think at times there are things that can be mutually true and real. So are we seeing this for the effect and benefit of what actually might happen during the midterms? Because it's going to blow up. It's not going to be good. And I don't think it's going to be good for the left or the progressives. It's just not. The way that this tide is turning, the way that the momentum is shifting, you just feel it. You can just absolutely feel it. That's what's going on here. But it's certainly going to be very interesting to witness and watch. I mean, it could be a real flare, a major flare. All right, let's check in with the chat room here. Let's see how people are doing. Hey, Charles, my health is great. Thanks. When Mexicans immigrate legally, they get drafted in the army. That is true. Mm-hmm. Yep. There are a lot of people who've done deals to serve in the army to get their citizenship. Kalergi plan. There we go. Indigo knows what's going on. Kalergi plan is to create the greater. Oh, the Kalergi plan. I thought I'm talking to you now. Yeah, Kalergi. That guy was all about destabilizing. Kalergi was mixed race. I think he was part Asian, and I think he had kind of a mixed race fetish because he was mixed, and I think he wanted the world to be like him, right? To create the world in his own image, which is true. True. What else? What's going on? We've got Hicham Dab. Welcome to the show. Trump is a showman. Of course he is. He's Leo rising. He's a total showman. Mars and Leo in the first house. He's a showman. He's a showman presiding over the greatest reality show of all time, which is this current chapter of human history. Trump gives us the illusion of retaining our rights. Certainly, there is an illusion that all politicians love to participate in. Yes. And what you're referring to is called the revelation of the method. And the revelation of the method is something where it looks like we're getting something, when in actuality, we're not really getting very much at all. But say what you will about Trump, he did get us out of the TPP, which would have been in many ways a real disaster for this country to be part of this global linked up chain of the United States participating in globalized trade zones, one step closer to a certain version of the New World Order. For that, I am grateful. And getting us out of the Paris Climate Accord, for that, I'm grateful as well. For somehow, for whatever reason, being a part of Nikki Haley being out of the UN, for that, I'm grateful. Now, the next step is just get the fuck out of the UN. All right, I'm from Brazil. Bolsonaro is president of Brazil in 2019. So did he get elected, Glauco? Did Bolsonaro get elected, or is that election going to happen still? Yeah, no, he is. I mean, all politicians do that, brown sheep. You know, this is the nature of reality. It's like, okay, we're going to give you something, and what are they going to give you, or what are they really giving you? Well, they're giving you crumbs. They give us crumbs. Yeah, that's But I think we've got a few more crumbs from Trump. Let's put it that way. And I'm telling you that statistic I read for that was so telling for me, which was between July 1st and September 6th in the state of Wyoming, 12,000 people changed their voter registration. 11,600 went from either independent and libertarian and Democrat to Republican. That's the statistic that you have to be aware of. Keep that statistic in mind. It's significant, and it gives, to me, when I saw that, it's like, whoa, that's a big deal. That is a really big deal, and I think we're going to see an absolute bloodletting at the polls, not the polls, at the election polls on the 6th of November. Okay, what else do I have? I got a few other news items I wanted to check in. What are they? Let's see what we have here. Let's see. Oh, here we go. This is I'm going to read this here. This is just a quick follow-up from Glauco's post in the chat room. I just found this. This could be very interesting. And let's see. It is from a website called The Canary. I guess it's in reference to canary in the coal mine, the canary.co. And the headline here is leftists are facing a cleansing never before seen in Brazil, while the West looks on in silence. So this is the Canary, and I'm just going to read this to you quickly, just following up on the post in the chat room from Glauco. Since announcing his candidacy for the Brazilian presidency in July, Jair Bolsonaro has been perfectly clear about his tyrannical plans for the country. But with just a week to go before the second round of the election, the presidential forerunner promised a cleansing of leftists never before seen in the history of Brazil. And while leftists are facing potential annihilation in Brazil, Western governments continue to look on in silence. Okay, so apparently this is a leftist website. This is nothing new. The West has a long history of supporting tyrannical leaders because of, if not despite, their brutal targeting of leftists. In fact, terrorizing leftists has long been central to Western foreign policy. So Bolsonaro's words have alarmed survivors of Brazil's 20-year military dictatorship, which lasts between 64 and 85, as The Guardian reported. These years are called savage torture sessions and dank political dungeons for those considered leftist enemies of the state. Maybe Glauco can chime in on that. Look, here's the deal, okay? When you get into a country that's got resources, people are always going to strong arm whoever's in power, whether it's the left or the right, they're going to strong arm for those resources. Bottom line, end of story. Okay. And there are always going to be subversives inside of a country. Always. Always. There will always be a subversive element. It's part of, in some ways, the spiritual check and balance system that we have here on this planet, right? The spirit and the will. Spirit and the will. So when we look at astrologically, if you want to look at an astrological example, it's Leo and Aquarius, which we're just getting ready to move out of, right? Leo's about royalty, royal orders, the rule of royal law, bloodlines, the crown. I mean, this is what Leo represents. And then the South Node, which is an Aquarius, represents groups, people, organizations, isms. And so we have, and we've been dealing with this for the last year and a half, the conflict between Leo and Aquarius. And I've talked about this before. It's played out with somebody like Joe Rogan, who's a Leo, and Alex Jones, who's an Aquarius. And they both are born, well, they're born exactly half a year apart, right? August 11th, February 11th. And so what we're seeing now is we're seeing this, I wouldn't call it the diminution, but we're seeing what's happening in this dynamic between the revolutionary spirit and the rule of order and law and royal decree. We're seeing this played out now. It's a very interesting dynamic. And that's not to say I don't think the revolutionary spirit is without purpose. I think it plays a role, very significant. You know, if there are conditions that are really horrible, then people have every single right to rise up and do something different against the aberrant conditions of their life. If not, you may as well just pack it in. You know, I know turning the other cheek and practicing good Christian etiquette is another potential strategy, but you know, unless you're Gandhi, it doesn't really go very far. I mean, Gandhi kind of, you know, Gandhi is the first and last word on passive non-resistance, or passive non-resistance. So anyway, a lot happening in Brazil. We're going to see that next week. That's going to be very interesting to watch. And I mean, look, I'm not going to sit here and try to play Joe McCarthy, but I think it's really clear. I think it's really, really clear that what we've seen in this country and in the world, right? You go back to the 60s and, you know, there were the riots in Paris. You know, there was like massive, like, you know, revolutionary change in Paris during the 60s. And, you know, it was all over the planet at that time. And it was interesting. The energy was radical. It brought us into this kind of Dionysian effect where we sort of have been, in many ways, here's how I've been describing it. You know, because when you get into Dionysus, right? What is the goal? The goal of Dionysus or Bacchus is to lose oneself, you know, to drink, to satiate oneself, to reach a level or a state of consciousness where you sort of dissolve and some other energies can come in and play and dance and you know, have a co-creative relationship with your life in some ways, whether it's momentary or long-standing. That is, right, the code of Dionysus. And so this has been going on since the 60s. And I think we're having a hangover, right? We're finally waking up. We're seeing the hangover in play. It's like, what the hell is going on? We've been asleep. Look what happened with our educational institutions, both at a high academic level, and look what's happened like with our high schools and our elementary schools. Holy shit. You know, these institutions have been infiltrated, and they have. They've been totally infiltrated. You know, one of the worst pieces of infiltration was Bush and his No Child Left Behind. You see, it's not always just left and right. You know, Bush is a member of Skull and Bones, and in Skull and Bones, they work together. They work together for one goal, which is ultimately a one world order. Now, does Trump pose a threat to the one world order? I would say yes, unless the guys that are running or want to run the one world order want to flip everything back and make everything kind of a nationalist state with a network of like 50 different Mussolinis, all basically answering to the same higher intelligence or higher organizing principle, whatever you want to call that. Could that be a potential for the new world order? Well, possibly. But I can tell you right now, this model now is beginning to infringe on the model that I was talking about. We're waking up, though. This is what happens. We're waking up. We're going, holy shit, what's going on here? What happened? What happened to the schools? What happened to the colleges? Our kids go into colleges now, and they're told to have safe zones, safe spaces. I mean, it's like Snowflake City. And we're looking at it saying, what happened? This is what's happening. We're waking up. Now, here's what I think is interesting. Here's what I think is really interesting, right? Trump he doesn't drink. Trump doesn't drink. He doesn't smoke. He doesn't do any drugs. Loves a Big Mac. He loves his fried chicken. He loves his taco bowls from Taco Bell. His vice is fast food. I mean, let's be clear about that. But he doesn't drink. Okay. Now we know that Obama was a party monster. Like Obama was the Lord of Dionysus. Obama was Dionysus in a lot of ways. When he would talk, and people would swoon, they'd faint. It was like this trance-like effect that he had on people. And you go back even further, of course, Clinton. Clinton is Bacchanalian. He's Dionysian. He's got the Cocaine Chronicles from Mena, Arkansas. And all the crazy, sexual liaisons and rape shit. And that's not to say Trump is clean. I'm not saying that at all. He's got some serious skeletons sort of hanging out back there. Okay, they all do. Bush was the example, the epitome of a dry drunk. And of course, he was another heavy and extreme cocaine user from back in the 70s and the 80s. So what we see with Trump, with his personal habits, and that's on record. That is not a lie. That is not an act. This guy does not drink. He's not smoke. He is the furthest. He's the furthest kind of example of Dionysus or Bacchus. So we are going through this change now. It's happening as we speak, for better or worse. And as I've been saying again and again and again, get the energy. Get the energy. Get the Apollonian energy. Get the solar energy, the solar Christos. Bring it into your life and be active. Do something with it, right? Do something with it. This is where it's at. Don't think that other people are going to save the day, save the show. This is a really empowering time, because what we're seeing now is we're seeing us being unhooked from the yoke of victimhood. And by the way, I'm even going to throw conspiracy theory into that just a little bit, because I love me some good conspiracy theory. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Because we get to see what's behind the scenes. However, here's the big caveat. However, it's really easy to fall into kind of an enlightened victimhood with conspiracy theory. You know what I'm saying? It's like you could think that, well, there's this, there's the Rothschilds, and then there's HARP, and there's all these things. And by the way, those things are true. And they do play a role in the management and the either construction or deconstruction of social architecture, social economy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That stuff is happening all the time, right? But it could be very easy to fall into a camp and then become jaded and cynical as a result. When I think of that, I think of like Lester Bangs, the writer from Rolling Stone, whom Philip Seymour Hoffman did an amazing job portraying in that movie. You know what I'm talking about. Glasses, Kate Hudson. Yeah, that movie. Anyway, it's really easy to fall into that camp. Now, can we look at the things that are going on, disassemble them, and then move into action? You see, that is the pivot. And we're in the pivot right now. Okay? We're in the pivot. We're going and moving from disempowerment to empowerment in our own lives. This shit is real. I'm telling you. I am telling you. I can feel it. I'm a pretty good weather vane. Okay? We're moving in this pivot. And it's going to be a very interesting time. because we're waking up. We're waking up from this slumber. Sometimes the waking up is very awkward. Sometimes people say or do things that are very awkward because they haven't woken up, or they have been asleep for a long time. We work through that. It's kind of a clumsy process, but I'm telling you, right now, the world is changing before your very eyes. Now, it might change in another direction. Could get heavy. We might have to deal with China on some military level. I would not rule that out, by the way. I'm just telling you, would not rule that out. At some point, it could happen. The world is changing in a very big way. And not necessarily in a way that I think we can foresee it. 30 years from now, I would love, if I'm still alive 30 years from now, there's a possibility. I would love to look back on like this 10-year period, between now and, I would even say just now, between now and 2024. Like this 5-year period from 2019, because we're almost there now, to 2024, I think is going to be 5 of the most intense, critical, and pivotal years on this planet. And you're a part of it. You're in it. You're in it to win it. And we're going to look back maybe 50 to 100 years from now, and we're going to see this time. And for better or worse, Donald Trump will go down as, and I'm saying this, he'll go down as one of the most important people in history. For better or worse. Okay? And there's going to be some people in true Trumpian Sun Gemini conjunction fashion who will say he changed the planet for the better. And there were some people who will say, the earth was never the same and it was, for the worse after. And so I'm not even sure if history will agree on whether or not the change was positive or negative. But I guarantee you right now, they will agree that there was a huge and significant change. Right? So be a part of it, not necessarily part of Trump. I'm not here to bang to Trump, drum for Trump. Be a part of the energy because it's shifting. It is shifting, and we are awakening from the dream of Dionysus. And it's fine. It was great. It was a wonderful dream. It was a really great time. It was a great party, but we stayed a bit too long. You know what that's like. You've all been to that party, right? You're like, it's like about 3:30 in the morning, and you're still at the party, and people have fallen asleep, and and you're trying to have some conversation with somebody who's like just as half lit as you, and you're trying to find some meaning in there, and you're looking around for the meaning at 3:30 in the morning at the party, and really you probably should have left the party at about 1 or 1:30 when it was here and not down here. And so we're kind of in the down here. We're waking up. It's like, okay, come on, let's go. It's time to go home. Go home. Go get some sleep. Wake up. It's Monday. Right. All right. Let's check in with everybody in the chat here. What's going on? Let's see. We got re-engineering reality. Let's see. I'm proud of him. He banged beautiful women when he was single. What did Obama do with his spare time? I also support Trump. The education system in Central America is bad. They don't teach students how to think. The educational system is pretty much fucked up everywhere. I'm packing my bags, getting ready to go. What else do we have here? Indigo Judicial Watch, excellent resource for me, along with Dr. Bill Deagle. Let's see what else. He's a Christian man, set in the Norman Vincent Peale. Vincent Peale is a Freemason, by the way. Please be active with research. But I'm alive. I'm here. I got to deal with it. 11 counties, California, have more registered voters than registered citizens. Oh yeah, that old game. Trump is just a man of all of us, but I believe he's sincere. That's why I support him. Trump is complex, man. He is complex. He's complex, and I don't think you can label him one thing or another. And when you do, you're going to be staring down something like, well, I thought he was this. I mean, how many people out there have said that Trump is racist? Oh, he's racist. He's racist. He's racist. He's not racist. He's not racist. He's not racist at all. I was talking with Robert last night, 21 Faces of God. We were chatting over the World Series. And he says he thinks that they might release a tape, with Trump spouting off the N-word. And I said, it doesn't matter. At this point, it doesn't matter. I'm telling you, it just doesn't matter. I agree. I'll read Christian Law, Love and Christian Heart. I don't know if Trump is a Christian. I don't know if he's a Christian. I don't have that inside knowledge. I know he went to Jesuit schools. I don't think he's Catholic. He's Protestant. There is some very, very interesting research that his roots might actually be Jewish. There's a lot out there that contradicts sort of his immigration path, and I can't make any kind of statement whether he's Christian or not. I think he believes in, some kind of deity or supreme deity. He's got Paula White in his White House, and she's another one of these, former corrupt pastors of mega churches, which I really can't stomach. I think that's in a lot of ways marketing and positioning, but I think he's a guy that rides energy. I think he rides energy. I think that's what Trump does. I think he rides energy. And I think he's riding the energy right now. This isn't what Kanye said. We about dragon energy. We're brothers. We're about dragon. And that's what, what are the ley lines called? They're called the dragon lines. And that's what you do. You ride the energy like rails. I think that's what Trump does, by the way. Catherine Austin Fitz knows about the lost money. Yes, there's a lot of lost money involved. The disruption couldn't have worked with anyone else. Had to be a person with a foot in both camps and lots of dough. Paul is absolutely right. The other thing with Trump is that Trump, oh, nice Hooters, the owl. That's funny. I like that. The other thing with Trump is that he's think about it for a minute. Think about anybody else who's gone through the last 2 years and all the shit that this guy has taken. Think about that. That's like a lot of shit, man. That would make most mortals completely weak at the knees and, not get up out of the bed in the morning. This guy's everywhere. He's everywhere. Now, today's in Wisconsin. Again, I'm not singing the praises of Trump. I'm just telling you what I see. I'm telling you what I see, that this is somebody who is getting stronger. He's getting stronger. He has survived the Mars transit of his sixth house, right? Remember I was saying it was between, what was it, it was July through October, that was really where Trump was running the gauntlet. And he's almost done. He's going to have Mars going through his seventh house, and that's going to be very interesting. You don't want to debate with Trump with Mars in his seventh house. Anyway, Beth says, breaking tomorrow. What is this? Oh, the suspicious packages. Yeah, I was going to talk about that. The Clintons have been sent bombs in their mailbox. So theoretically Soros, who, again, who was it? Chris Houston said that Soros doesn't exist. I don't think he exists either. Not in the way that we think he exists. I think he's a boogeyman. I think she says physically he doesn't exist, that he died. Quite possible. But you need a guy like Soros. He's the Mandarin. Yeah, who knows with those bombs? Who knows? Whatever. I think they could be, they could easily be planted by somebody who wants to gain sympathy for the Clintons. And, here we go, the right wingers. It's just, just sort through this shit. Look at it, digest it, move it on, man. Move on and make a difference in your life. Okay, you said if he makes it to November. Yeah, November. He's been running the gauntlet astrologically. Who's he had to take on? Well, he's had to take on Omarosa. He's had to take on Michael Avenatti. He's had to take on Michael Cohen. He's had to take on Bill Mueller or Robert Mueller, right? He's had to take on all these people, Stormy Daniels, and just, going through the sixth house, running the gauntlet. All right, I'm out of here. Thank you all for joining me for the last hour and 15 minutes. I should call the show an hour and 15 minutes of flame. Let's see where your information sources are unreal. Where do you get all your stuff? I have a secret channel. I cannot describe it. Right now, he's sitting on the couch. I got it. I'll be honest. It's Jasper. Jasper is this trans-dimensional transducer, and I just try to get close to Jasper. All right, everybody. Have a great day. Use your head to discern what's real. Your heart says what's possible. I'll be back tomorrow, and stay dry. If you're in Texas, if you're in California, God bless you. Hope you get some rain soon. It's on to another day. Have a great one.